James from PingPerfect here. We had the pleasure of being invited to the Factorio Space Age LAN event last month and caught up with Kovrex to ask some questions and have a chat. Whilst we were at the LAN, we got to have some hands-on experience with the new Space Age expansion, which as of this video being published is now available. The space platform that you can see on your screens seems to have been used in a lot of videos online. It was actually my silly platform that was never supposed to be used, but ended up being the blueprint for a few platforms, at least for Team 12. Following the LAN, we've been hosting the saves for all the teams, and there have been numerous patches to make Space Age even better for the players. So hats off to Woob, and from all of us at PingPerfect, we hope you enjoy the expansion, and of course rent a server from us to play with your friends with. With that being said, let's dive into the chat.
I'm here with Kovrex, one of the guys from Woob, lead developer, owner of the company. So we're here talking about Factorio, the new Space Age expansion. Tell me, how did Factorio come about? When did it start?
You mean like the Space Age or Factorio?
Factorio as a whole.
Factorio started when I was working in a corporate. I was bored during the meetings. I was drawing factory on the paper, and I kind of was thinking that it would be a fun game.
All right. Okay.
And it's and then I was like, okay, I will make a simple 2D program in like a few months, just for fun. And I made like a prototype, and this is how it started.
All right, so it started as you were bored in another company, and you started doodling, basically.
Yeah.
All right, very nice, very nice. And a question that has always sort of bugged me about Factorio is, we've landed on a planet. That's the word I was looking for. And then we go around killing all of the inhabitants of that planet. Are we the bad guys?
So obviously, like it's one of the themes in the game, which is sometimes a little bit subtle, but the point is that in the beginning you land crash and you just want to defend, you want to survive. Naturally, if someone attacks you, you defend, and you want to get some resources to somehow help you out. And gradually, so this is understandable. Like, I don't know, do you know the series Breaking Bad?
Yes.
One of my favorite ones. And what I really like about that one is that the character is very understandable, at least for me in the beginning, and it becomes more and more evil, and it's less and less necessary for him to do the things that the character is doing.
Yeah. And
it's more and more evil, and more for the ego, and more for it. And I think Factorio has some similar vibe, because in the beginning it's understandable what you do, but eventually you start building, and you start killing trees, you start removing the natives in the way.
Yeah.
Kind of just for the sake of building more and more and more. You don't kind of need it to survive anymore. You just want to be bigger. And I find it kind of interesting that different people realize this at different moments, and that it can even make people understand some of the bad aspects of industrialization, because like a lot of industrialization is a little bit like that. Like, you didn't really want to be evil, but somehow in the end, when it all comes together, bad things can happen.
Yeah, you just kind of end up being there.
Yeah.
Or you start dropping bombs on things. You're like, hold on a minute.
I hate it. Like, everyone hates the trees, because they are in the way of the factory. And like in the real world, it's usually not really like that for normal people. And you kind of understand how this kind of behavior starts to exist without people actually being evil. It's just,
We've talked a little bit about the gameplay of Factorio. What are your favorite mods for Factorio? Have you played any of them?
Well, honestly, I don't play that much with mods. I mainly I have some other people in the team that play with mods a lot, and I kind of they show me their factories with mods, etc. And very often it's an inspiration, or it's it's interesting to see what's possible. And often the things from mods kind of become in some one way or another in the game if they are interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I personally don't need to play mods, because if I really want something, I just put it into the game.
You just put it in the game, yeah.
Yeah.
So that leads me on to Space Age then. So some of the more popular mods, have they kind of made their way into the game as they've become more popular?
Well, it's not that the mods exactly would get into the game one to one, But I don't know. For example, my good example is Blueprints. Like the first Blueprints, it's way back. But the first version of Blueprint was in some kind of mod, and it was very clunky, but it was kind of game changer. It made me realize, oh yeah, if this was done in a useful way and good, nice way, it would be so obvious to make blueprints instead of building everything one by one. So it wasn't really that we kind of copied the mod or something. It was just these ideas from the mods very often, and it's also related to the fact that, as you might know, the one of the very popular mods is Space Exploration, made by Erandel, and it's not that here it's a little bit different. It's not that we didn't have the idea to go to space before. Obviously, we had from the beginning, but I mean, ending of the game is sending a rocket, so yeah it kind of feels natural. But Erandel was very impressive with how he can do everything. How he's super efficient and everything, and we decided to try to work with him. So it's good for many reasons. First of all, he's very efficient. He makes many things. He's making like game design stuff. He's making graphics. He's making scripting. He's making map generator. He's making many things. And also now when he's like working for us, no one can blame us. Oh, you just copied Space Exploration. No, like the guy made it is now on our team, so it's a little bit different. And obviously, for example, lots of the mods, including Space Exploration or Bobs or etc., I kind of know about these mods. They very often are made with the fact in mind that, oh, I played Factorio, but I want something new. I want more of recipes, more of stuff. I want it to take longer time, etc., which is understandable. Like if you enjoy the game, you just want to get more. But we kind of wanted to have the experience of a space exploration where you have more things, but it's not like over the top. Like basically what I call it like a balance of like concepts, like game concepts versus just content. Like content is just more recipes, more resources, more items, everything, and concepts are like, oh, suddenly items are spoilable or some kind of change in the way how the game works. And so we decided to like really squash the items and recipes as much compared to the concepts. So the game isn't really about like, it's not just taking too long. It's not just too big. It's just trying to be different.
Yeah.
So
we wanted each planet to have.
So we are not really like fighting with space exploration. Space exploration is for the people that really want to spend 500 hours on a run, which is crazy. And we are more like, okay, this is more of a Factorio-like game, obviously, but a little bit more approachable, a little bit more like in the scale that we are used to with in Factorio. Obviously, the scale is bigger. Like for example, today we have the one party, and a lot of the people didn't realize that they have to build bigger factories overall to support all the space stuff. So you have to build bigger, but it's not like crazily bigger.
Yeah. And speaking of the planets, how did you come up with the names? I mean, Volcanus is fairly self-explanatory.
I think I didn't come up with the names. Someone else did. There are some different versions. It's like second or third version of names we have now. And I think Erandel made some ideas, and then we changed some of them, and some of them I think Volcanus stayed from the beginning. In a way, it's kind of very obvious, Volcanus, but it's kind of the way we do naming in Factorio, like you have biters and spitters. It's not like some special like made up name. It's like super obvious.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. And Volcanus, I think it's in this kind of category. Like Gleba, I think it's something from Greece, some Greece mythology or something. I don't even know exactly. So they made some names. We changed those that were really hard to pronounce and spell. Yeah. And then this is how we ended with the names.
Okay, and in space exploration, what do you think the hardest thing to code in it was?
Like technically to program, you mean?
Yes.
Well, usually the hardest thing to code are the parts of the code which were left to rot and are in a bad state. I mean, this is usually like the worst thing to kind of untangle the mess, spaghetti from the code. other than that, these days we are adding more and more multi-threading to the game.
Yeah.
And it tends to be challenging at times because very often when you have bugs in multi-threading, you don't really find out until it randomly crashes, and it's really hard to debug. So these kind of things, you need to really know what you are doing.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you think the long-term plans are? Are we going to be waiting another sort of 10 years for another expansion, or?
The long-term plan is that the expansion is kind of the end for Factorio, at least for now.
Yeah.
Because we always wanted to do something else than Factorio as well. But it's really hard to balance, because when you look up the teams that were successful with some kind of game, and you kind of try to figure out how many of them, after the success, they made a completely different game and was success again. It almost never happens. It's like when you try to, basically it kind of implies that there's more luck involved than people care to admit. And so we try to learn from the mistakes of others, and we were like, okay, we need to not be too crazy and kind of stick to not risky strategy, which was making expansion pack seems like very obvious solution. There were still a lot of things we wanted to do, and the players wanted more, so why not? So we did this, but I think at this point we really, it's more than 10 years working on one game.
Yeah.
I think it's just about the right time. So the idea is that we make the release, we will support it for some time, we will maybe make another major release, which would be like not really like another Space Age, but like fixing things after the if we call it 2.1. basically, if there's a 2.1, maybe some things can be added, but nothing like really super major, mainly to stabilize Factorio, because the feeling is that the game is now big enough. We've been adding so much that if you are a new player and you get directly to Space Age, it's so much that you can get lost almost. And so I feel like adding just more doesn't really add much. There are different things that could be done, but I feel like it's a good time for change. So our idea is like Factorio is still being sold, is still making us money, so we can afford to try something else. And if just something else doesn't work, then it's not the end of the world. We can kind of try, but it's more important for us. Basically, the point is that if we were like a this company that's on, how's it called when you sell a shareholder.
Owned by shareholders.
Yeah, owned by shareholders. Then we would have to think very different way than we can think now, because we would be like, okay, we want another quarter, we want some gains, and we would have to squeeze Factorio more. We have to make projects that we are sure that make money, etc. But since we are not, and we can think in a different way, and the thinking different way means that we make other game and we do what we find fun, and as long as we can pay our bills, we can afford it, and I think it's a great luxury. So the point is that I want to make some kind of RPG games. I don't want to go into the details, but basically something different, and maybe probably, like I says, the probability of it being as successful as Factorio is low, based on the evidence from other cases, but still, why not to try it? Like, it's for our own mental clarity, it's better to do something else after like 10, 12 years of doing one thing. So,
okay, all right, excellent. Well, you guys heard it here first. We might be seeing an RPG from Woob at some point.
yeah.
Okay, so are there any things that sort of kept you awake at night about the release of the expansion? Anything that was kind of worrying you?
Well, obviously, there's one difference, because normally when we do releases in Factorio, we always had this strategy. We first release experimental, which is supposed to be buggy, and only the people willing to go into the buggy release for it to have sooner, or if they want to help us to find the bugs, then these kind of people take the responsibility on them, and they help us to stabilize the release always. And then once we are sure that it's really okay, we mark it stable. So we are not really nervous, because there's no point in the process where we could kind of spoil the game for everyone, or make it But this is a little bit different because in the space age we kind of go directly to stable because of how the world works, basically, because it's a big thing and we kind of want to. There's really not easy way to make it otherwise. So obviously there's some risk involved. It might be less stable than normal stable for us, but on the other hand, we have a lot of this is why we have events like this when 100 people play it for several days, and we already fixed many problems, and we also will have some closed beta testing, and we play also in the the developers play multiplayer together, etc. So I really think it will be okay because we have so much testing, and we will be releasing on Monday to have because most of the people usually buy on during the weekend.
Yeah.
So we release on Monday to have another week on top of all these testings to fix some unexpected problems. But generally, our kind of development process is done in a rigid way, where we have automated tests for almost everything, and we will try to do it in a proper way. So the game is relatively stable. Now we basically played for 3 days, and there are crashes here and there, but it's kind of rare, and it's still not the final version. So I think it's making me a little bit nervous, but it's not the end of the world. It's not that bad.
But it should be fine, yeah. And you release on a Monday, so that you've got that whole week of, okay, we're still in the office, we can sort things out.
Yes.
Unlike some other devs who I won't name, who release on a Friday, which is the worst thing to do.
Yes, it's the worst.
And I think that might be the time that we've got left. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And good luck with the space exploration.
Okay.